All right, y'all.
Hey.
I think it's time for us to get started.
Yeah, I was like scarfing down some cookies, so like, oh gosh, is it time already? But here we go. So excited for this next session. I'll go ahead and stop my share and then reshare real quick. So while I do that. All right, yeah, now, cool, here we go. So before we introduce our next stellar speakers, Gabriella Angotti-jones and Smita Sharma, Polly and I are gonna do what we do best and go over what the essentials is. So if you are here at the start of the workshop, as you know, you already know the drill, you can take this little bit of extra time for a longer break. Yeah, welcome again. Here we are, day 2. Yesterday was amazing. So many great speakers. We had an amazing 2 speakers already today. Mohammed and James, thanks again for all of that amazing information you shared with us about navigating the industry and long-term projects. As Polly just mentioned, all of these classes will be recorded and shared on our collective websites. We will share a slide in a sec with those URLs. But really quick, just want to say again, the essentials are, if you don't know by now, free online classes about navigating the photojournalism industry made in partnership with grassroots photo organizations. You can see our logos here at the top. That's the Everyday Projects, Black Women Photographers and Photo Wings. And we are working hard every day to create an industry based on inclusivity, equity, and access. The Everyday Projects. Hi, my name is Danielle Villasana. I'm a community team member of the Everyday Projects, and we are a global community of visual storytellers, from documentary photographers to journalists, artists, and more, all committed to using imagery to combat harmful misperceptions and to rise above persistent inequality. As a nonprofit, we work to provide opportunities for our community and provide structure, support, and direction for the diverse and worldwide range, that's always a tongue twister, of everyday photography groups. And I'm so happy, I just keep getting happier and happier to be here with Polly Irungu, my co-host in crime. You are amazing, Polly. And yeah, I just am still so much in awe of you as the founder of Black Women Photographers. Please tell us more about you and your amazing organization.
Thank you. Yeah, so Black Women Photographers is an organization I started in 2020. Like you all have known, working to provide equity for Black women and non-binary photographers in this field, just giving us opportunities and resources that we may have been overlooked for. So I'm really excited to be doing this alongside you, Danielle. And if you want to put up the links for people can, the slide for people can see the different organizations, you can do that and follow and check us out. Yeah.
And just thank you again, shout out, massive shout out, high fives to Photo Wings for being our support, our backbone, making sure that the essentials happens. They're a nonprofit org dedicated to utilizing the power of photography to further deep thinking, communication, and action. Check out their extensive online library, videos all about these topics we're discussing today in depth. So lots of free resources out there. So please, please, please take advantage of those. Just want to quickly also say thank you to the people working behind the scenes on the Everyday Projects. Rebecca Jibian, Washira Njogi, and Austin Merrill, who along with Peter DeCampo are the co-founders of the Everyday Projects. They are doing so much, y'all, tech, and lots of other amazing things behind the scenes. So thank you. This is a group effort. And again, I just want to emphasize my admiration for Polly, the founder of Black women photographers, please consider making a small donation or a very, very, very big one to support the amazing work that BWP is doing for Black creatives around the world. And these are amazing speakers. We've got Gabriella and Smita coming up, and then we'll finish the weekend workshop with Tasneem Al-Sultan and Josue Rivas. These are our links on social. I'm going to pull a line from Polly and say tag us, share. If you've enjoyed what you're listening and learning, please tag us on social media, follow us, keep a lookout for future cool initiatives that we'll be up to, and the survey we're going to be sending out later. So thanks for being here. Thanks for making this community what it is. And without further ado, here we go. Bookmaking, it was perfect. James Rodriguez in the previous class talked about books, so it was just a perfect lead into, yeah, Gabriella and Smita, who are here with us to talk to us about how do you even do books. So yeah, I think with that, we will introduce Gabriella and Smita.
Yes, I'm so excited about this because when you think about like, oh, I want to make a book, like the concept like is so daunting, right? It just feels like such a daunting task. So these two folks will be breaking down their process and reassuring us, or me, that it's not that scary, that we can do this, that we belong in the book sphere, in this space. And so I will introduce Gabriella, who I know and love so much. And so this is also like, I keep saying this, like such a humble bio, both of you guys, very humble bios, but Gabriella, for those who may not know, is a documentary photographer based in Los Angeles, California, whose documentary work focuses on the intersection of race, identity, and environmental justice. She was previously a staff photographer at the LA Times and has worked at papers across the country, including the San Francisco Chronicle, Tampa Bay Times, Las Vegas Review Journal, and the New York Times. And she is amazing, and you'll be able to hear more about her work in a second. And Danielle will introduce Smita.
So I'm going to also take your line. Smita Sharma is someone I also know and love very much. Yeah, I gotta say, I'm sorry, Smita, if I'm oversharing here, but the other day when we were sort of chatting back and forth, we've known each other for quite some time now. We met back in 2013, and she was like, yeah, thank you so much for saying that, because I just feel like I'm not doing enough. And I was like, excuse me, TEDx talk, book that you just published, you just won this huge grant with Getty. I'm sorry, if this is you not doing much, we're just all like, we should just all go home. So yeah, just again, thank you to all of our amazing speakers, including you, Smita, Gabriella. Yeah, these just MBD bios. But for the official one, Smita Sharma is a Delhi-based photojournalist who has documented gender issues, sexual crimes, and human trafficking in the global South through long-form visual narratives. She's a TED Fellow, an IWMF Reporting Fellow. Her images have been published in the New York Times, BBC World, Wall Street Journal, Time, and National Geographic Magazine, among others. I love that. She is the recipient of awards from Amnesty International, the Las Photos Project, One World Media, and the Fetisov Journalism Award. Smita is also a co-founder of Everyday Southeast Asia. So with that, we're going to kick it off now to Smita and Gabriella. And just please take note of where you can buy their books at the links that we're going to share in the chat and in the Q&A box. And as always, we're going to have a great session for question and answers at the end. So please drop those questions in the Q&A box. So with that, take it away, y'all. If I can unshare my screen, right? Was my screen unshared? Oh boy, we're at that time, huh? Was my screen shared? It wasn't, was it? Oh no, I was just rambling. Why did y'all just let me ramble like that? Oh boy. Well, anyways, y'all's presentations will be much more dynamic than the screen, so go ahead, sorry. Who was it who was going to go first? I think we said this the other day, but now I'm not remembering.
I don't remember. Whatever. I can go first, Smita.
Yeah, I was like, Gabriella, you unmuted yourself. You're first.
Oh my God, I outed myself. Oh no.
I think we had decided on Gabriella going first. So I was like waiting for her to start. And I was like, okay.
Sorry, I'm trash. Okay, let me see. I'm doing this for the first time on here, so let's see. Okay. Yay. So thank you so much for the introduction, Polly. Polly, I love you. Polly and I have gone back. We did the NABGA student projects together and we struggled together. And like, it's so amazing to see her doing this, which honestly, I'm not surprised by because she's badass. But anyways, so my name is Gabriella. I'm a photographer based in Los Angeles, as she said. And for the past 3 years, I've been working on a photo project that turned into a book on Black girl and non-binary surfers. And so today I'm just going to try to walk you through kind of the process of like making the physical book. I totally should have put in kind of like the planning aspects of it, but hopefully in like just talking about my story, you guys will be able to kind of pick up on how that happened. And then also during questions, like you guys can answer more questions. So about 3 years ago, I started this project. I actually grew up by the beach. This is a picture of me at the beach. I grew up in a place called Capistrano Beach, California, right in between San Clemente and Dana Point, very surfy town. I grew up really loving the ocean and being, you know, part of it, but I never really saw people that looked like me. My family was one of a handful of Black families in the that immediate neighborhood and area. The only Black people I really saw were my family. So I just didn't really think that I belonged in that community, especially when I started doing junior lifeguards and started surfing. I didn't really see people that looked like me. And there was kind of like a series of microaggressions that happened that kind of led to me not feeling comfortable surfing. Surfing is a very individualistic sport. Everyone's kind of in their own space when you're in the water. So, you know, I think that combined with the fact that when you're a grom or like a young surfer, there's a lot of older people trying to input and tell you what to do. I think that affected me because I felt I took it really personally. And also like I was a child, like how could I not? So like, yeah. So this is a picture of me at the beach. And then also right next to there is a Roxy picture frame my mom bought me. And as you can see, it's like a blonde white woman and it's a picture frame for you to put your face in. And like, so it's just like assuming that you're white. So I think I mean, my mom found this like when I first started photographing the project. She's like, look how messed up this is. And I was like, yeah, that's why I'm photographing this. So anyways, so I didn't really see anyone that really looked like me. So about 3 years ago, I started this project and photographing women and non-binary people that had the same skin color as me, or we were Black, American Black people. And it's just kind of blossomed into this crazy community that I'm now a part of. I was really lucky to kind of be a part of the beginning of it. So I've been documenting since all these women and people started coming together and starting surfing and gathering and stuff. And now these people are some of my closest friends and I love them so much. And basically I just photographed us going around, hanging out together, going on surf trips together, tried to get a little bit more political, but that didn't get up in the edit because we really wanted the book to focus and balance friendship and like personhood and like just all that kind of stuff, which I'm getting ahead of myself. So these are the kinds of themes that I kind of presented in the book. And when we were putting the book together, when we made a bunch of 3x5 cards and put them all up on the wall. Oh, forgot to mention, I collaborated with Mass Books, who is ran by Ben Brody and Peter Van Achtmel. They're both really amazing war photographers. They both have very dark sense of humor. And you know, you're probably thinking, oh, like they don't sound like they're Black or African American or anything. They're not, they're Jewish guys, but I figured that I wanted to work with them because they understand how to work with really dark subject matter with a sense of brevity and a sense of humor. And I figured that racism was it's very similar to war in a lot of ways. So I figured that would be a really good way to do it. So when we first started, especially when I was designing with Coomer and Herman, which were my designers, I went the designer route. There are multiple ways to make a book, as Smita will probably go in, and you can spend as many amount of money as you want on it. I decided to take the more expensive route because I figured it was my first book and I had done a lot of commercial work. So I decided to do that. So I went with a design house based in Denmark and in the Netherlands and or I mean the Netherlands, not Denmark, different places, but anyways, so I to go with them, and they helped me come up with a bunch of themes. So these were the kind of themes that we're going through: friendship, personhood, belonging, Blackness, healing, ocean, surfing, and community, depression, identity. And these were the themes that I kept in my work, and I picked the kind of pictures that followed these themes. So when you start your project, any project really, you should really start in thematically and just kind of work your way out from there. And from here, they were able to kind of put in their heads like, oh, okay, so this is the kind of design that I wanted to go with. The references are really important because I didn't feel comfortable surfing and doing it and like being a part of the culture, I really immersed myself in the visualization of it. So like kind of the magazines, the videos, all that kind of stuff. So that made a really big imprint on me. Like I'm really just like a parking lot like harbor rat at heart. And I felt like visually that's just how it kind of like brought it out. So we wanted something that was a little more, you know, cluttered, punk, kind of unrefined, something that had a little bit more of a DIY feel, but we also wanted to elevate that aesthetic to a photo book. And we wanted to have that come through to where it could elevate the photography and showcase the photography, but also show the attitude behind it. And I also really wanted to see myself and my friends in this style because I'd never really seen like Black and brown surfers and non-binary and gender inclusive people in this way, visualized ever in a legitimate space. So I figured, why not? So these are the kind of visual references that we're used to, very, again, run refined. Cooper and Herman, Annika, amazing, my queen, she was the lead designer, she did an amazing job. So we all kind of put this together to kind of come up with the book. And we really wanted the book to have a personal, like I said, handmade DIY feel to it. So that kind of just have the elements of storytelling, maybe like things were kind of mismatched, that kind of stuff. And we figured that that would really help strengthen the imagery. And going into the look and feel of the book, because we wanted it to be an interesting object as well, I really wanted it to mirror the feel of a magazine. So we decided on open binding, which is just this hand sewn binding that you can use to bind books. Binding is extremely important, as Smita will probably go into. So many people skimp on paying for binding, but you really want to make sure that your binding is not just stuck into like a cover sleeve and glued. We want it to be stuck in there and so that it can last for years rather than months. So I decided to go with open binding, which makes the book really stick together. And it also makes the book lay flat. And on the outside of the book, we were going to use the cover slip as a poster and use as a uncoated thin paper to give it like a raw feel to it. And also on the inside, it was the same kind of paper as well for the zines, I believe. And then we had coated paper for the photography, so I added glossy. I shot the project predominantly on film. So we wanted something that was going to help the colors pop and stuff like that. The cover is my favorite part. So it's actually super sick. The book is about like 8.5 by 11. So it's kind of small because I wanted it to look like a zine. And what we did is we had this poster fold over the front and kind of create this little gap in between, as you can see. And you can fold it out and it's about like 11 by 17 poster, or no, 11 by 23 poster inches. So this is the cover. We had so many different iterations of it, but we really wanted the book to stand out on the shelf among of other surf books. Usually when you think of surfing, you're like, oh, water, oh, surfer. But we wanted to have joy. We wanted to show what the book was about on the cover, which is a bunch of Black and brown non-binary people and women and all the other kinds of stuff just on the front of the book. And this is the back. My friend Kimmy is in the book a lot because we love Kimmy. And then that's actually a picture of me on the back, again, showing that unrefined nature and also showing what's going on the inside. And this is actually the poster when you open it up, and it's super sick. And it's all images from the inside of the book, all taken in the last 3 years on different trips. And it's a double-sided poster. So on the other side, we have this, which is really fun. So a little preview of the book right now. The intro pages were actually super sick. So we wanted the feeling, thematically, we wanted the book to mirror what it's like to be in the ocean, which is having waves of emotion hitting you, waves of thoughts. When you're surfing, it's you're looking for waves, you're scanning, but you're also processing whatever's going on in your head. So we wanted the book to mirror that as well. So in that case, we had different themes happening, different thoughts coming and going in different booklets. And we wanted to start the book underwater. So we wanted to emulate the feeling of being underwater, bursting through the surface, kind of experiencing what was going on in the book and in your head, and then diving back underneath again. So if you get the book, which please do, it starts out with this untreated paper, which is very raw with underwater imagery. It has a couple little thoughts, and then it leads into the actual book, and then it ends with the same imagery. And then the poster actually folds out and covers it all very nicely. We had the quotes organized in the book kind of more towards the edges to kind of push the reader to their limits, because we wanted, the book is mostly about my journey with depression and how my friends have really helped me through it, but also showcasing my friends' badassery and wonderfulness. So this is, we just kind of push the text to the corner to kind of hint at like being pushed to the edge. And this is my favorite part. We put little mini booklets on the inside. This isn't a final of the booklets because I can't get everything away, but we wanted these mini booklets to imitate zines. So they're these smaller booklets inside the bigger ones that you can actually flip through, and then there's text. This is my friend Chris Blue, non-binary, we love them. They actually shape, which is amazing. One of the first people I've ever seen that's non-binary that shapes, which is great. And yeah, just kind of, you can flip through. So it's like, it's a very textural, like interactive book, which is what I really liked about Surf and Skate magazines. And this is actually, Smita probably has probably seen one of these too. So when you lay out a book and you're going to have different elements in it, you actually have to organize it based around the binding of the book. So the booklets, as you can see here, had to be on very specific pages. So we couldn't really work around that. We had to work the edit around the construction of the book, which was a unique challenge, but I was really lucky to have Peter and Ben and Annika and Jeroen from Kumar and Herman to really help me through that process and make suggestions on how the edit and flow of things should go. And now we're going into production. So this is what it looked like when the book was printed. I printed at NPN Druckers, which I highly recommend. They have in-person binding as well. And I actually found out that it's cheaper to print abroad in Europe than it is to print in the US. And that's just because I think we just pay people more. I don't really know. But anyways, I could be wrong. But so yeah, so this is what it looked like. It was really exciting to get it all done. And then this was what it looked like to scan all the negatives. I did it literally 3 days before they were due. I don't recommend that. And then when you self-publish, you actually are responsible for transporting and ordering everything and doing everything yourself, which is, you know, it's fun, it's fine, but that's what a choice, because we wanted creative control. So I'm lucky I have a truck because I was able to transport all my shippers. So shippers are actually what you encase the book in to send out. There's I'll give you guys links, but basically there's this place called what are they called? They're these multi-D shippers which actually collapse and encapsulate the book, so you can just fold it up really quickly and send out. So very affordable, very easy. I'm gonna have a shipping party later this week where my friends are just gonna like box up like a couple hundred books. It's super casual. And then this just came in yesterday. My books are getting delivered on Tuesday. So when you self-publish, especially during COVID, everything's a mess. There's shipping's a mess. Materials are a mess. So it's amazing that I was able to finally get this after the book got on the boat end of July. It is now October. So it's been a huge back and forth. And like, if you ordered the book, thank you so much for being patient with me. It's been pretty hectic getting the books off of the ship. Had jokes of breaking into the ship to get it, but we didn't do that. So that's actually what happened. And I just wanted to say thank you. There's my friends and I dancing before our surf trip. And then my friend Olga, and then shippers on a truck. So thank you so much. Hopefully I can answer any more questions that you guys
have. Wow. I hope now that Smita is going to share her presentation, Gabriella, you have a chance to take a peek at the chat. Everyone is super excited about your book and work. So
40 questions. Thank you.
Yeah, and Smita, let's hear about your bookmaking process. How'd that go for you?
All right, so I'm going to give a little background and then explain later why I'm showing the images. Hang on, let me just share my screen. Can you see it full screen now? Yeah, okay. So my project which is now a book, is called We Cry in Silence. And I did not intend to work on it as a project. It happened by accident after I met this girl that you're seeing on the screen. This is one of the first photographs that I took. And she was just rescued back from the brothel because my, this work is about trafficking of underage girls for sex work in India, Bangladesh, and Nepal, the cross-border trafficking. So when I met her through a friend. And then what I learned from her was shocking because she said that she met this guy during her commute to school, and this guy professed his love for her. And then, they just sat near a tea shop, and he offered her some snacks, and over a cup of tea, he offered her marriage, proposed her marriage. And then she never went back home that day. Instead, she went with him, boarded a train, and then he took her to Delhi. And a week later, she was sold off to a brothel. So this was shocking because I couldn't understand how can anyone just walk away with a stranger you just met? How does it happen? And that curiosity actually led me to investigate and go really deep into it. And that's when I started, hang on, I don't know why this is not going to the next slide. I'm just going to stop sharing and just bear with me 1 minute.
As you do that, Smita, just want to remind everyone that we're going to have a great Q&A session later. But it's only great if y'all ask the questions. We've already got some great ones coming in. So, all right, cool. I think we're back. Awesome.
Yeah. So I'm just going to quickly show you some of the images, which shows about the vulnerability of the girls as I started digging deeper, and how trafficking happens. The various hotspots and how girls are kind of brainwashed. And as you can see, this personal diary, which shows that the infatuation of somebody who went missing. And it's obvious that she was trafficked by someone and she eloped with him. So then I started building connections with the law enforcement, and it was a huge challenge because you don't get those access. It took me 3 years to build that, to build that friendship, I would say, and then get access to these police files of missing girls. And then I actually got to interview traffickers, and the guy that you see in the middle, he's a notorious criminal, a mastermind, and this this photograph is again from the police files, and this is a woman trafficker. She is a mastermind who was very recently convicted, which is again very rare. So then I started meeting survivors, and then again I was met with challenge because you are not allowed to photograph them with identifying features. I could go to prison. There's a law called POCSO. And so I had to be very careful in how I photograph them. So I used a lot of lighting and a lot of different techniques to show the personality, yet, tell the story. So from there, I actually photographed the brothel, the red light areas. And then I photographed the shelters where girls who are rescued, they're brought, and that is where they are counseled, given medical support, given different kind of mental counseling. And as you can see in this photograph, this is a welcome kit, which I had no idea about, and it is a way of restoring back their dignity, because when girls are rescued, they have nothing. Sometimes they don't even have proper clothes on them. So and then, the bonding that the girls shared, because they all shared similar experience of trauma and bonding with each other. So, so this project was later commissioned by National Geographic. And in October 2020, this was, globally published. This was the lead photograph. And in India, this was the cover story. So when the story came out, I actually sent some of the magazine copies to the law enforcement officers. And then they told me, like, now what? It's great you have the story, you have the magazine. how else can you help us, or what are you going to do next? And that is what planted the seed of a book in my head, because I thought I need to do something more substantial, something more permanent, I would say. So I actually approached Photo Evidence, and I shared my project with them, and luckily they loved it, and I was on board with them. So then the next challenge is that how do you make a book? Where is the funding? And as you know, editorial photography, you have limited funds. So then we came up with a Kickstarter campaign. So this was a Kickstarter campaign. And what I wanted to share is the timing. Sometimes luck is not on your favor. So with the Kickstarter, we had a lot of challenge, because when the Kickstarter was launched, the Ukraine war started. So it was very difficult to get attention. And also I almost felt guilty to ask people to support my Kickstarter, when I thought that people, should support Ukraine and, help the people out there. But then again, I kind of told myself that no, my work is also important, because maybe this is a silent issue, not on the face, but it is, a global complex issue, and this needs to be told. So luckily, we had help, and a lot of friends and a lot of strangers supported, and it was a success. We got the fund, and then came the next stage about making the book. So I was very happy to have Sarah Lean as my photo editor, because Svetlana from Photo Evidence asked me, like, do you have anyone in mind that you want to work with as an editor? And I was like, I want to work with Sarah Lean. And also because I shared a history with her. When my project was commissioned by National Geographic, Sarah was the director of photography. So it was kind of like a coming back to a full circle. And I thought that no one else could do a better job. And she did a wonderful job. So my designer was Fernanda and João, who are Brazilian, and they live in Iceland. So it was truly a very global project, because my publisher is in France, I'm based in India. So every time we would get into a call, it was like, okay, what is the time zone? What is the best time that we all can meet? It was a challenge. It was a huge challenge, working over a period of a year from different time zones. So this was the first cover, and which Joao made, and I did not like it. So sometimes, there are things that you just go with, and sometimes you have this gut that no, it's not going to work. And then I had to explain that why this is not going to work in South Asia, because it's too Bollywoodish. And also, if I give this book with this cover to the law enforcement or anyone, no one is going to take it seriously, So I wanted something which is more creative and subtle. And then they came out with a beautiful cover, which I love, and which is now the cover of my book, which is this. And I just loved it. And also to mention about the color scheme, there was a lot of talk about it. And when you talk about trafficking, you talk about red light area and you have the color red. And I told my designers that I don't want any red color, please just spare me that color. So after a lot of discussion, we thought, okay, why not this yellow and gray? Because, when you see this warning sign, it's basically a black and yellow that do not cross the line or stop or be careful. So it was kind of that kind of design, because the idea of the book was not just to have a good looking, pretty book, but also to educate people, to raise awareness. This book was meant to do something else, And if you can see, this book also has the edge, which is rounded. And this was basically, which is easy to carry. And you just imagine that, a student is going to take the book from the library and put it in the purse and not damage it. So there were a lot of these nuances that went behind the design. And I'm very happy that my designers put so much thought to this. And then came the idea of illustration, Sarah said, because there were certain situations that I could not photograph. It was impossible, not humanly possible to photograph. Somebody trafficking, I would not go and photograph, I would report it to the police. So there were certain situations that I could not photograph. So we came with this idea of illustrations, and this was like a stick drawing that I did with a professional illustrator. So at every stage I had to explain a situation that, hey, this is a guy who is kind of sending Facebook and WhatsApp messages and trying to be friendly with, random girls. So there were certain situations where we thought about this thought bubble, that the girl is thinking about marriage and the man is thinking about money, and he's gifting her something. So this is how they basically trap the girls. So finally, this is the look which is used in the book, because we wanted to keep this color theme. So this is how it went in the book. And again, this is another sketch which went this way in the final, So again, when we started editing the images, I had around 20,000 images. So it was a lot of photographs to bring down because it was 7 years of work, it's 7 years of work. It's over a period of a long time, not as long as James. So, Sarah wanted some kind of details which she thought was important. And during, when I was working on this project, I always collected documents. Not some of them I did not photograph, but I just had a file. So this was a medical report of one of the girl who was thrown away by the pimps outside a public hospital. So it became a very important document in the book. And maybe we will answer this in the Q&A, but I think the way you edit the book, the images are very important. Not every photograph has to look stunning. It's kind of like a wave. Some photographs are stunning and then some photographs are okay, because it's kind of like you're taking people on a time travel, on a journey. So again, we had these kind of illustrations of self-defense, and this was used throughout the book in some specific pages. And again, my writing, it's a multilingual book because we wanted people from this region to be able to read it, not just English speaking audience. So we have Bengali and Hindi because it's going to cater to India, Nepal, and Bangladesh, the 3 countries that I worked on. So again, this was the designer's choice. They said, like, we want the English to be big font. And I was like, this is too big a font. And they said, no, trust me, it's going to work. And I went with them. And again, the color scheme was yellow and black to go with the theme of danger and that, awareness kind of theme. So I'm going to end it here. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen, but I want to show my book. One thing in my book, which I cannot show in, in this format. So there were also certain things that we did in the book. So as you can see, this is again an open spine, and we had a yellow thread work. So this is yellow thread, sorry. This is yellow thread open spine because you want this entire thing to lay flat. I'm going to show you one more page here. So we have different chapters like the brothel, the survivors, the girls, the law enforcement. These are all different chapters. And this is my favorite part. So there are stories like this that you can see. And it's kind of like a half page. And then you have her entire story here, again in 3 languages. So this was again a part of the design. Not all stories have this, but only some of the stories that we thought was super important, we had them. And again, it was a lot of math and calculation because again, what Gabriella said, you can't have them everywhere. There is a certain kind of, calculation and placement that you need to do to have these kind of special pages. Yeah, so I think we can go for the Q&A now.
Can we just say, wow, like for both of you guys, I'm just blown away. I mean, the chat is also agreeing the level of care and attention that you both put into your respective books to honor, those in the books as well. It is just amazing. We dropped the links to pre-order in the chat and also in the Q&A box. So please, if you're able to, consider pre-ordering their books. Danielle, where do we begin? There's so many great questions.
I know. Yeah, I don't know. I'm in awe of all of you, Smita, Gabriella. I'm just like, we should have done anyway. So we got lots of questions. Let's get started. I think a lot of these questions relate to both of you. So, we can, kind of do back and forth. But so one question is, did you have any mental resistances that kept you from actually committing and taking the first steps toward the book project? How did you know that this was something possible for you, and how did you navigate your energy and emotions, which both of you talked about a lot, that this was personal, it was about, community, your community, things happening in your own country, your own community. So how did y'all sort of navigate that?
Should I go first? I don't know how
Yeah,
to.
Gabriella, go first.
Okay, we'll just go back and forth. Maybe you'll take the next question first. So the whole process was personal to me. I was actively figuring out that I was a severely depressed person while I was working on the book. So there was a lot of starting and stopping. It was a lot, honestly. I think that when you're working on any project, you shouldn't be hard on yourself. You should just do what you can do and give yourself breaks in time, because it's not like, a 9-to-5 job where you can be like, hey, we're going to work on my book today. Like, it's a creative process, right? So there's ebbs and flows with that. Yeah, hope that answers the question.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
Go ahead, Smita.
No. I just love that we're talking so much about self-care. And almost everyone has brought it up in some way, shape, or form. And I hope that this is something that our visual media industry continues to talk more about. I think it's really important. I think, a lot of things go into self-care. A lot of issues intersect there. So thank you both for talking about that and maybe building on it.
Maybe I would just like to add one line to that.
Of course,
so because it was, during this entire project when I started, just when I was commissioned for the Nat Geo and I started working for them, it took me 2 years, to work for Nat Geo to get this done. I found out I was pregnant. So there were two good things happening at the same time. But my doctor was not happy. And this is something that we don't speak in our industry. A lot of women photographers that I know, they hide about their pregnancy, thinking that they will not get assignments. And it's true, a lot of people don't want to take chances, and it's happened to people in the past. So I was pretty open with my editor, and everybody at Nat Geo knew. And then they kind of carved out my entire assignment in tune with my pregnancy. So, until my third semester, when I could walk and I worked, and I worked in very unhygienic situations and circumstances, and it was very intense. I was working, and there were some medical problems also. So, and you don't have access to healthcare. Sometimes you don't have toilets. And these were some of the challenges that I had to navigate, but I'm so glad that I had a very helpful doctor. And I also was glad to be supported by Nat Geo, because they gave me an assistant and he helped carry some of my heavy weight because I could not carry.
Yes, let's break these taboos by talking about them freely. So thank you both for bringing these really important topics up. So someone asks, maybe we're jumping a little bit ahead here, but we can just kind of go back and forth. But if you were to do it again, y'all are like, I'm not going to do it again. No, I'm kidding. But how would you do it differently? And I say that because book publishing is like, it's a mammoth. It's a huge, undertaking. But they say, self-publishing is so hard and you've done such a great job in marketing. What have you learned through this process? And again, if you could do it again, what would you do differently? If you would do anything differently?
I think the first mistake that I did was, it's kind of like a silly mistake, but now it took a lot of my hours. Initially, when I sent a huge edit to Sarah, I had renamed it. Never rename your photographs. Please keep the originals, because your designer is going to use what you send. And at the end, when it goes, to InDesign, they are not going to change it. So then I had to manually change every photograph to what I had sent before. It it was a nightmare. It was a nightmare. So don't make that mistake. Never rename your files. Just keep the original file name when you send it.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off of that, I definitely wish I was a lot more organized. Like I said, I scanned like 120 negatives in like 2 days, and I don't recommend that at all. So just keep, if you're going to work with film, just be super organized and keep everything together. And also just have like a budget in mind, because I was lucky, like I said, I had some savings to work with, but there are a lot of random costs that would pop up at the end that if I didn't have my savings, I wouldn't have been able to do it how I wanted. And I think no one should be limited in what they want to do. As far as that goes, I mean, I wish I would have photographed more of the OGs, the older women, but it was harder to get them to agree to being in the book. So in a different reality, they would have been in it. But yeah, I'm pretty much happy the way it is. So yeah, you learn to love it.
There's a follow-up question here for you, Gabriella, about the film process. What was the scan resolution you used for printing? And even, what you're saying, talking about organizing your work, this is 3 years of work. So how did you organize everything?
I ended up cutting and paging all my film and organizing it based on situation I was in. So if it was like, okay, June 2018, summer 2018, whatever, like I would just organize it based off that. I scanned everything as a high-res TIFFs. I would get my scans done at the local lab as medium res JPEGs, which was also very expensive, or low res JPEGs. And so I could just preview everything, or if I was lucky enough to get one of my friend's flatbed scanners, I would do contact sheets that way. And then I was super, super lucky to have my friend Colin, shout out to Colin, who slid in last minute and was like, I will help you scan all of these as tips and we can color correct them. So one thing I really love about the photo book making community, it's very much give back and love and, all that kind of stuff. So even anyone in this thing, like if y'all even need help or any questions, just reach out and like I'll help answer. I'm sure Smita feels the same way. Like it's all figuring it out on our own, and it's just like information that we pass on to each other through word of mouth. So yeah.
There's another quick tech question for you, Gabriella. You started, you talked about the beautiful underwater photos and how you wanted people to feel like they were in the water. What equipment did you use for those?
I used a bunch of different types of cameras. I used Fujifilm's Quick Snap disposable cameras when I didn't have much money and I only had $35 to spend. And then I also used the Mykonos 5, which talked to me about, it's a very finicky camera. You really have to take care of it. I used a Minolta Weathermatic for a period of time, which is much easier than the Mykonos 5 because it's pretty automatic, but you can't take it. It's not as nice as the Mykonos 5. I also have underwater housing from Aquatech and SPL, but I recommend SPL housing more because it does not leak. And then what else did I have? I think that was it. I also used my Contax G2 that I bought, and I had a Fujifilm 645 medium format point and shoot camera.
Wow. So that's why your book looks the way it does. It's so dynamic. Like, I love it. I mean, it's just so artistic and yeah. Wow. So that's it. We just have, yeah. Wow. Just revealed your secret, Gabriella.
I mean, it's all for everyone. Everyone can make books. Everyone can do it. Like, it's
for sure.
There's a great question here for the both of you. Both of you, these are stories that are close to you, people that are close to you. This is your baby. So how did you bring in the people to help you bring your, this to life? How did you go about the process from choosing a designer to choosing, like, you said, Smita, the editor, Sarah Lean, how did you decide these are the right people to trust with your vision and your, what you want to do?
And sorry, I just want to piggyback off of that when y'all answer this. Sarah Lean, all of these people y'all have mentioned are amazing. Love them all very much. But when you had to navigate maybe conversations where you felt strongly about your vision, for example, in Smita, the book cover, how did you navigate those conversations that were sometimes a little uncomfortable?
So, we all are from different cultures, different countries, so we come with our biases I'm not going to say biases, but with our different experiences, right? So when you're making a book that is going to be used for education, awareness, and you want this book to go into the community where the problem exists, right? And you want to make this book in multiple languages. So there are so many layers of details that has to be taken into account. And so the visual space that you are making, there's a lot of thought that had to go. So to be very honest, Sarah and I, we have had so many meetings, long meetings, going over each image. She was asking me questions, I was explaining. So there were a lot of things that we discussed. And trust me, there were some photographs which went in the magazine and which were like really strong photographs, but they didn't end up in the book. Not because they were not good photographs, but when we make chapters and the way the book flows, the visual, there are certain things that might not work, or there are certain okay kind of photograph which might really work well. So these are some of the things that we had to take into account. And again, about the designer, how do you choose the designer? Well, I did not choose the designer. I was given an option by my publisher. And so I had a few names and I went to the website, I saw their work, and I actually liked Joao and Fernando's work. And I think they took a lot of bold decisions with my book. The certain things that they did in the book was very bold. And sometimes you just trust the instincts of others who are more experienced, because this was my first book. I'm not a designer. So there are a lot of things that you have to consider, listen to, and sometimes you just have to go with your own instincts, because I know this language, I know the region, I know how things are going to be accepted here. So if people are going to look at the cover and not take it seriously, or just, it's, just make a smirk, it's not going to work. I had to put my foot down. So there are certain situations where you have to talk, and sometimes you have to listen. Yeah, it's a collaboration.
Totally. And to piggyback off of that, for me, I think I was very involved with the community because I do surf, and I was interested in making friends probably before. And I wanted to photograph the people. I definitely, when I would introduce myself, I would say like, hey, like I'm doing this, I'm photographing. It's a part of me figuring out who I am again. And they were like, oh, okay. And I was like, I don't know where it's going to go. I'll let you know. I always tell my friends if I'm going to license any images or, pitch them for anything, I will always get their approval. I don't accept anything under $600 for them. That's like a rule for me, because they have to get paid fat, because they've been so generous with their times and letting me photograph them and so intimately and be in their faces while they sleep. And then, so I think that was also a part of it. So a lot of people in my project are people I know. As far as like getting to know a designer and stuff like that, I am super lucky that I know Ben and Peter. I met Ben Brody at Eddie Adams, and we bonded over his zine that he made over his time serving in the Iraq and Afghanistan wars. So we just bonded over just being weird people. And I'm super lucky that he saw my project as a book and helped really guide me through that process. And I was able to tap into his network and, help him introduce me to people, including Annika and Jeroen at Kummer and Herman, they specialize in bookmaking. I know for a fact that their designs helped my book shortlist for Aperture Paris Book Awards this year for first book. So, I wanted to be with a group of people that understood the process, could respect my wishes and my designs and my crazy ideas. And they were mostly telling me that we couldn't do things, because I was like, maybe we can make it in neon. And they were like, no. So, I wanted to get wild. They toned me down. I definitely think we could have gone a lot more punk, but I love the way it turned, absolutely love the way it turned out. I think it's a great balance of the tone of the text and the images and everything. So yeah, I hope I answered all the questions that were part of that.
You did, and I'm ready for the neon version too. It's so awesome, neon punk. Gabriella's like, no. Seriously, beautiful, beautiful work from both of you. Okay, we got lots of questions about the part that we never want to talk about, the money. What were the actual costs in terms of project management, deadlines, bookkeeping, did you both end up having to pin on yourself, or did you outsource support for any of those things? If you can talk about even any specific line items with the budget, like things that you have to think about when making a book. Yeah, the funding, so all the money questions that there is in bookmaking.
So I think, during the production of the book, there are a lot of things that will change. For example, the quality of paper. I wanted special art paper, but then the cost was almost 4 times. And I was like, no, let's settle for something which is more more easy to work it. And also, you don't want to work with paper which has to be exported, because they take a lot of time to ship. The shipping cost will add to your budget. So there are so many things that you have to take into consideration. And also, my book was printed here in India. We were right from the beginning, everyone was kind of like okay with the book being printed here. First of all, cost was effective too. And also I wanted to be there while the book was being printed, look at the colors, look at everything. So that was another reason. So again, I worked very closely with the printing house. They're a huge printing house, one of the biggest in the country. And they would come with samples of papers, and I would look through it, and then we would have calls with our team, and go over everything. So these are some things. And also, I just want to mention about shipping. I think after COVID, the shipping costs have gone up a lot. Gabriella will know it more. It is so expensive to ship anything now. So if you're going to make a book, please consider a huge chunk of it to keep only for shipping, because your costs are really going to go up. And especially with my book, because it's a hardcover book, it's a hardcover book with many pages. It's kind of like heavy. It's less than 1 kilo. I don't know what's that in pounds, but it costs. So sending one book to US from here, it's kind of like $30, $35, which is, and it's shipping one book, right? So you have to put all those things into consideration. And also, if you're hiring a designer, you have to pay the designer, the editor, although my publisher took care of that, but for that we needed to have a Kickstarter. And this Kickstarter, you have to constantly push yourself, promote, and you have to shout at the top of your voice that, listen, I'm coming out with a book, please help and support me. So there are so many things that you have to do in order to reach that ending line.
Yeah, and I mean, she outlined it perfectly, honestly. Shipping is very expensive. I would earmark at least $5K just for that, just to be absolutely safe nowadays. My book came out with cost of production, designers. I had a book editor as well. I went the bougie route. And paper, free shipping, what is it called? The book, the boxes to ship the book ended up being $23 per book, and I ordered 1,300 copies. So you guys can do the math, because I've done it too much and I do not want to think about it anymore. So it was a lot of money for me, but I saved up. I freelanced my butt off. I did not eat. I did a lot of commercial work. I'm very, very, very lucky that I've been able to transition to commercial work and save and live frugally, because I knew that I wanted to transition out of the you shoot like a photojournalist into you shoot like, I don't know, a documentary photographer, or however else our weird industry boxes in people. So I wanted to make that transition and really show who I was as a person. And I very much viewed this as an investment. Ben and Peter stressed to me that the most important thing is to break even. So my project, like, I don't want to make money off of it. I just want to break even. I want people to afford it. The book is $40 because I just want to be able to sell it, get it on people's shelves, have people have equitable access to it. And yeah, so that's it. So that was my goal. And I think going into with the shipping, the bookmaking costs, like, make a realistic budget for yourself. You're like, okay, I have $300. Well, get out your photocopier, like, let's go. You know what I'm saying? So like you can figure it out. It's not impossible to make it's not impossible to make a good book off a limited budget. There are so many different resources for you. And yeah, you can do whatever you want. And you just have to ask questions, like ask people, like ask. Like I said, the bookmaking community is extremely open with everything, because we've all gone through the struggle of spending an extra $2,000 last minute. So yeah.
I mean, I just want to appreciate it, because again, we don't know what we don't know, and then the only way we can know is when we share this information that was once new to us. So just going into the finances a little bit more. I mean, doing the math, you spend at least 30,000 right there at the very least, right?
But we're getting that money back. We're getting it back.
So I want, I'm glad because you kind of answered the question I had, because it's like, how do you then price it, for people can actually pick it up off the shelves? And so you kind of answered that, Gabriella. Smita, how did you, go think about that? Because even, you also want to make sure that the people back home, they also have access to the book. And that is different, conversion rates, $40 US dollars, it's a lot different, $40 elsewhere. So how did you think about that, Smita?
So another reason of, we had a lot of discussion, and the main reason, which I said, of making this book was to, to have this accessible to the communities where the problem exists. So what we are going to do is that, of course, there are people who have ordered the book, there are people who are going to buy the book, there are going to be book signings and launches, for the next year. But we have kept a certain portion of books which we are going to share it with the community. So for example, if there is a school in a village, I'm going to go and I'm going to, give 2 books, donate 2 books to the school where they can have it in the library, so that people can go and read the book, because this is 45 euros. And if you convert it in Indian currency, it's 3,500, which is a lot. It's a lot of money. So people cannot really afford it, especially the communities, they cannot think of it. So, and there is another thing that we are doing with it, which I did not mention before, is we are making a zine. It's kind of like a 12-page zine, which is going to be only in Hindi and Bengali, which is going to have resources, which is going to have some kind of educational information, like how to file a police report when your daughter goes missing or something like that, how to approach the police, what are your rights, what are your legal rights, all those, of course, with the testimonies of the girls and survivors. And these are going to be distributed for free during the community campaigns in collaboration with local nonprofits. So they are going to be given out for free in 3 countries, India, Nepal, and Bangladesh. Yeah.
That's incredible. I mean, just wow. And I see another question here, making these books, I'm sure there's so much more to this that you guys you probably haven't even shared. Like we're just, I feel like we're just scratching the surface, but from start to finish, how long do you think it took you guys, to put this together? And what was it like once it was out in the world, and how has your careers or anything changed since then?
If I could take that question first. It took me about 2.5 years to shoot and about a year to work on the book, from finding everything to the collaborating, whatever. And I cried when it came out and I held it in my hands. I've cried multiple times. My friends have cried. I cried when I made the Paris photo shortlist. Like, it's just lots of crying. I don't know what's happening. I feel like I'm in the midst of finding out what it means, but I'm so grateful, like, to everything and everyone. And even, I forgot to mention, to backtrack. So because I work the stores on Action Sports, there's been a bunch of brands that have supported me through this process, which I'm super grateful for, and have helped with planning my party and, buying books and all this other stuff. So I'm just like, the support is insane, and I feel so lucky to even just be a part of this and just put it out there. So yeah.
About me, I think my book just came out in September, and then we had a launch in Perpignan at the Visa Le Port Image, and I'm really grateful to have that space. And I would say I had the privilege to be there. I'm so full of gratitude. And just last week there was the launch at Lisbon. I could not attend it, but my publisher was there, and here Susanna, she organizes from ICPI and Image. Lisboa Photo Festival, they currently are exhibiting my work. So, and then there are more launches coming out, as I mentioned. So I don't know how it's going to turn my career or change my career, because it's just come out. My baby is just out. And to be very honest, 7 years of work, and then it's now a book. I don't know how to feel about it. I'm just relieved, to be very honest.
I can imagine. I can imagine.
I'm like, okay, I'm done. and trust me, during the printing, it was a nightmare to have those color matching and then to stand there. And this printing press is such a macho industry. I was the only woman there, and I got so much looks during the printing, and I was there for 18 hours. I went at 10 in the morning and I came the next day at 5 in the morning the next day, non-stop, although they took very good care of me. But it was a lot of work, and this is just the printing I'm talking about. There is so much more that went before that, and so much that came after that, So it's, as I said, I'm just glad it's done.
Honestly, same. With respect, like respectfully though.
Yeah.
Bravo, congratulations to you both. If it hasn't been said enough, I hope you have a chance to just glance in the chat. Y'all are getting so much love, so much praise, so much admiration. Beautiful work, both of you. We're just about time, but to kind of like totally revert us back, we were kind of going through a natural like timeline a little bit here, but there's a few people who want to know more about, and if we could just touch on it briefly. How do you, develop trust with the people you photograph? I mean, Gabriella, you mentioned a lot of people are your friends, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're, automatically going to say, sure, yeah, New York Times book, So how do you develop trust with the people you're photographing? I think that's a really relevant question for everything kind of we've been talking about over the weekend. So a lot of people want to hear that from you too.
I think for me, like I said, just being my authentic self. This was the one situation I've ever been in where like I was representing myself and also as a working photographer. So it was weird. Like at first I was like not hanging out with people, and I would just like show up and then leave, and people were like, what is wrong with you? You're weird. And I was like, yeah, I am being weird. So I was able to like integrate myself a lot more, not take so many pictures and not be so freaking weird. Because I think like when you're a photojournalist, you're just taught to be weird around other people and standoffish, but I really had to open myself up and not be so weird around people. And I think once they saw that I'm like goofy and kind of crazy, they're like, oh, we can get down with her, and know that I'm not just there for the picture. Like I actually am looking out for their well-being and like trying to get people paid and like help the community as well. So yeah.
And about me, I think it was a lot of patience. I mean, it took me 3 years to just get a yes from the law enforcement to allow me inside the police station to get access to those files. And with the girls, because I was talking about sexual violence, I was talking about human trafficking, I was talking about trauma. It's not something that you can just go and ask like, hey, tell me, how were you trapped? Or why did you elope with a man you just met? You can't ask them such questions. It takes a lot of time. I didn't even carry my camera in many places the first time. I would just go and sit down and talk to them. And at some point, I think, people are smart. If you are honest with them, they understand what is your agenda while you're there. And they understand, that you are there for a purpose, and the purpose might not help them directly, but it might help someone else, So, and then they feel that, okay, at least my story can help someone else, then why not I share my story? So you have to bring that relationship to that level. And to get to that level, it's a lot of time, patience.
It is 3 years. That's amazing. And I think it's just a testament to, the intention and how thoughtful you both have been, because even you, Gabriella, you mentioned, I mean, they didn't start out being your friends. They didn't. So all of this takes time. For both of you, because I know we are at time.
Polly, this is when on the first day when you said, Danielle, don't hate me. Now it's my turn. Polly, don't hate me.
I know, but
First meet thing, Gabriella. But this is going to be fun. This is a challenge for Gabriella and Smita. We're trying, we also as hosts try to get to everyone's questions. So if we haven't said it, in fact, I don't think we've said it at all, but thank you so much for everyone's questions. And we really are trying our best, Polly and I, to get to everyone's questions. So in an effort to squeeze in 2 more, Smita and Gabriella, challenge for you, answer in 1 word. But the 2 questions are, will your books be available as an ebook? Are you considering it? And then the second question is, what part of the journey has been your favorite part? So ebook, favorite part of the journey, 1 to 5 words, go.
Gabriella, go first.
Okay. No, and surfing again.
Okay, that was quick. Ebooks, not sure. Best part of the journey, I think the cathartic, I don't know, feelings, that I felt during this entire process. It was, yeah.
And okay, sorry, I do have another question because
Popular.
but I want to be respectful of everybody's time, so I'll keep this short to this question. When I think of, like, you guys have both mentioned it at several points, when we think about just the publishing game, I mean, there's a lot of data out there how wide it is. There's not enough of us in there. Black and brown folks, we just are not there. 1, because of the cost to do it. It can be seen as a hinder. We've never seen ourselves out there in these books. And so, I mean, again, kudos to y'all, but who are some of your favorite, folks that you follow that have books? Any women in particular that have released a book that you love? How do you find these other bookmaking folks in the community, to lean on and, support? Or do you find that support when you publish a book and they come out of the woodworks and congratulate you? I don't know, but how did you find the other book fellows out there to lean on for community?
I think I reached out to Laura Boschnak. She was very helpful to give me certain guidance initially. I also love Laya April's book. I think she's made beautiful books. So these are 2 names that comes to my mind. Even Paula Bronstein work, her book is beautiful. I have a bunch of others. There's this South African photographer, I can't remember, but this is on child sexual abuse. I think something about the sky, from the window of my sky. I hope she forgives me, but it's a beautiful book. I'm going to write in the chat if I remember. Gabriella, you go.
Okay, Deanna Lawson, Queen of Our Lives, LaToya Ruby Fraser, both are bookmaking queens. Both Black women, American Black women. Carrie Mae Weems, another, I have all her books as well. I'm super lucky to know Ben and Peter. And I think just asking questions and figuring out, who the bookmaking people are, and also just tapping in and using my networks and figuring out who are the people that can connect me with. Like I said, bookmaking community is very, very, very open. We like to share resources, that kind of stuff. So also Jim Goldberg, King, not a Black woman, but we love him.
And for those who are listening, who may have a long-term project, an idea in their head that could be a book, what would you say to them right now?
In 1 word, no.
I would say make a zine of your work and start laying it out, because that'll help you make an edit and then figure out the direction you want to go in. Print out 3x5 little cards and lay them all out. See what's up.
Yeah, same thing. Just use white paper, paste them think that they are books, the papers, and just use these pins because you can open those pins and you can move around. So you can work with those and see how it feels, just to hold them and see them flip over, that can be helpful. And also think about chapters. I think having chapters is very important because they help your brain function visually and everywhere and organize things.
Thank you both so much for your openness and your journeys in the book making process. It feels, it kind of I can see the light, like it doesn't feel so daunting anymore. Thank you both so much. Again, the links to their books, to pre-order, to check out, to see more are in the Q&A box. Please consider doing so. I mean, the holidays are coming up here in the States, would make such a great gift. Thank you both so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you all so much. Totally in awe, in awe. Just wow. The imagination is just, thank you both.